The Colorado Freedom Memorial in Aurora reflects the world around it. On a sunny day, its glass panels gleam, its metal beams flash. On a freezing, slate gray Veterans Day, it has an icy stillness about it. We spent 6 hours there this morning, and in all that time, saw one visitor.
Didn't really tell anybody I was coming out here. I kind of wanted to be on my own a little.
Jacob Cervantes is far from home.
I'm in town for work.
He's been far from home before.
I was in 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines, one deployment to Iraq and one to Afghanistan. I got here, it was different. Walking by the flags, I didn't feel alone.
If he was going to be away from home on Veterans Day,
why not be in the presence of family? Growing up, I was always told your family is your blood. But when I signed up, I learned that's not true. Your family's who you make it. Your family's the guy to the left, to the right of you.
He likely never met any of the 6,000 Coloradans listed here, yet he knows them, each and every one.
Wherever I've been, I've met a service member in the Army, Marine, Navy, and I've always been able to just talk and like we're related, like we're brothers. Give advice, receive advice.
Make each other feel at home.
That's kind of why I kind of wanted to come here. Their advice to me is to keep pushing. You know, keep my head up. Better days will be coming.
It tricked us, really. All the water, all at once. We couldn't turn away. From the canyons swelling and bursting, from the neighborhoods of houses made into islands, the farm fields turned instant oceans. The water tricked so many of us watching into thinking somehow when it went away, that some burden was being lifted. No, the burden was revealed. A disaster beyond anything Colorado had ever seen. Hundreds of miles of roads erased, 28,000 homes damaged, 18,000 people displaced, 10 Coloradans lost. $3 billion in damage.
What happens after the camera crews leave? What happens after the hype fades away?
Today, we are setting out to see what's happening in the mountain town cut off from the world.
It's an amazing community. These people rolled up their sleeves and went to work.
To see it floating away, that's life in there.
What's happening for the family we couldn't forget.
But it's just a constant reminder of everything that it took.
What's happening where recovery can't happen fast enough.
We're already starting to lose people that have moved on.
And what's happening beneath the surface.
It's hard sometimes. Sometimes you wake up at night and relive part of it.
What's happening since Colorado's floods a year later. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kyle Clark. The week of rain seemed endless. So what are we to call this now? A year of recovery? We know several more ahead. The temptation is oversimplification. Calling the recovery a success isn't fair to the families who feel forgotten, to the neighborhoods that seem stuck in a blind spot. Calling the recovery a failure obscures the tremendous work done, the great gains made. So let's call it what it is, a work in progress, a highly individualized recovery experience for each of the more than 18,000 families forced from their homes and the tens of thousands more who suffered property damage. They ought to be able to tell their recovery story in their own words. And we ought to listen. If we were to speak to each family for just an hour, we'd be here for 2 years. Some people call Joe Baldonado a Mexican. He was an American, a Colorado native, and a hero.
They seem to be alive, really.
Everyone is here to remember.
You can even see the anguish in their faces.
To remember the boys sent to defend Korea.
Seeing this gives you a lot of pride, you know.
But only Charlie Baldonado actually remembers Joe.
I think about how cold he must have been, you know.
And it breaks a brother's heart.
Oh, it's something else. It's been 64 years, and I still miss him.
And to know he is the last person with real memories of Joe.
I think about him, and I keep him alive that way.
He thinks of their earliest years, joining their parents in the fields as soon as they were old enough to work.
They were humble people.
With a humble home in Denver's old Auraria neighborhood, long since paved over and called Progress.
They worked wherever they could.
So that meant Colorado's beet fields, then California's orchards, until the day he enlisted as an American from nowhere in particular. He went where his commander-in-chief sent him, the last place he would ever go.
Corporal Joe Baldonado from the Korean War is still missing.
Hill 171 near Kandang, Korea, where Corporal Joe Baldonado, the citation says, distinguished himself by extraordinary heroism, where he moved his machine gun to an exposed position and drove the enemy back from Hill 171, drawing all of their fire. Joe won. As they retreated, they threw the grenade that killed him. The Army held that hill and buried Joe there in his parachute. 1950s America decided Joe deserved the second highest military honor.
Our military reviewed thousands of war records.
Modern-day America decided differently for Joe and 23 other minority servicemen.
Some of these soldiers fought and died for a country that did not always see them as equal.
That country wasn't yet ready to call a migrant worker a hero. Heroes have hometowns. Joe would have if he had come back from Korea and stood where his brother stands for him today.
My greatest fear is people won't remember the sacrifice.
There is a monument to memory in Colorado, on the edge of Aurora, where the plains meet population, where Rick Crandall is collecting their names.
Citizen soldiers from the great state of Colorado who left to defend freedom where they were called and didn't come back. And for almost half of the names that are on this memorial, their remains never came home.
There is no visiting Joe's burial place inside North Korea, and he has no headstone here, no memorial, until this Memorial Day, when his name will be engraved in Colorado's place of honor.
I'm so excited that in Colorado we get a chance to bring him home, that we get a chance to give him honor here, that we get a chance to say to Joe and to the rest of the family, thank you for your service, and we have not forgotten.
And to see all these people in this weather here, you know.
In Washington, there are no names.
You know something? I looked at that picture right there. That looks like him.
No names, only faces.
Look at the face right there. Look at the face right there. I'm sure that that's not what they had intended. But I looked at it as I was talking to you, and it popped out on me. You know, it's funny. But, wow. I'm glad I came. I'm telling you.
And he'll come to Colorado, point to the name, and he'll tell the story of Corporal Joe Baldonado, a story that only a brother really remembers.
There'll be generations that'll come over and say his name, and they'll say his name, and he will never be forgotten because he's going to be there.
Joe Baldonado enlisted in the service because he wanted to accomplish something. His brother tells me Joe never intended to be a hero. What he wanted to do was use his military pay to buy their mother her first house. Adele, the family bought that house with Joe's death benefit.
His wishes then were fulfilled. All right, thanks a lot, Kyle.